from somewhere in that zone, you're not going to be able to see everyone on the site because there's all these stalls, slopey areas, skate park and other infrastructure.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying that what we consider to be our entertainment space is the grassed area immediately in front of where we're having the marquee. We have measured it out. I have some measurements on my phone. Would that be helpful?
Well, I'm not asking for measurements. So the okay, so that's useful. I would want. I don't know if it's possible, Chair, with your permission. It may be useful if one of the licensing officers or myself was to show Miss Dowpat a photograph of one of the entry points on Elkstone Road.
I'll allow it, but you realize you're going to be presenting.
I know. Well, I just want to put the point. I'll put the point to Mrs. Dowpat, which is that those two entry points have either side of them. They've got metal posts at a sort of diagonal angle.
Yes.
There's no gate, is there, on any of those? And there's no gate, and there's a similar entry point, what you're calling A, at the other side, which is the corner of Kensal Road and Goulburn Road.
Yes.
The short point is those are so wide that having two people standing there is nowhere near enough to control ingress or egress at any of those points, is it?
Yeah, I fully understand that. So we've got some plastic barriers that we will put by both of those entry points, and they're connecting, so we can connect those, and that's the barrier between, you know, the crowd and the space, and obviously we'll have the personnel there as well.
And can you just confirm that you're not having any security staff where it says number 3 on the plan that's up? There's a spiral staircase down from the road bridge.
Yeah.
You're not having an SIA person there.
We weren't planning to. I mean, that spiral staircase is actually locked by the police over the weekend. Their lock is permanently on the gate and only used during the weekend. And usually there are some officers located around that space. Yep.
And there's a cycle path. There's a cycle path there, isn't there? At that point, under the bridge, there's access. You haven't marked it as such, but between 2 and 3, there's various ways in, aren't there? There's a path and a cycle route under there.
There isn't a cycle route. There is a sort of I think it's called it's a space it's a pathway that's being created by people constantly walking on it. It was once grassed, but because it's a shortcut basically across the lawn, but it's not a cycle path.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll explore the entrance and exit points, I think, more when I make my submission. I just wanted to put that point to you. Thank you.
I mean, I do think that it would have been really helpful to have had an on-site visit with the police, and I mean, the local authority special events team know us well, but I do think that meeting would have been really helpful on site.
Okay, thank you for that. Any more questions from the police?
No, thanks.
Okay, then you can crack on, Mr. Graham. Please, can you present your submission? And let us know if you need anything up on the
Okay, so it's probably useful if someone can put up Appendix F while I'm speaking, which is a plan, but I'll crack on. So I just want to address the first point, which is, why does this need licensing at all? It's because of the regulated entertainment. There is an exemption in Schedule 1, paragraph 10 for garden fetes, but it only applies rather it does not apply if the fate, function or event is promoted with a view to applying the whole or any part of the proceeds for private gain. So if there are commercial traders, and there's lots of references to traders of the stalls, or if the security firms are making a profit, then it doesn't come within an exemption and it requires a license. Now, the two concerns that the chief concerns the police have are, point one is issues around surges, crushing and crowd control along Elkstone Road, and in particular the corner with Westbourne Park Road, because that's where the floats will turn on their long articulated vehicles. The crowds have to be held back at that point for their own safety. These floats are going past between midday and 8 p.m. And the crowds are having to constantly stop and start, and this is one of the most packed, busy parts of the carnival route. And so the main concern is not so much people coming into the gardens, it's people coming out from the gardens at those points into an already highly congested space. And the issue is that the organisers of this event are not trained and experienced in managing those sorts of crowds, and they're stopping and starting in coordination with the carnival. That's the first point. The second issue is around control of numbers coming into the site as well, and how this is going to be securely managed, and that's both with a view to the legal limit in terms of maximum numbers for attending 499, and also just generally managing the numbers on the site. So if I address each of those in turn, the first point is that if we're on Appendix F, if we zoom in on Meanwhile Gardens, you will see that depending on exactly how you count it, there are 7 or 8 entrances. So there's entrance onto the canal. I don't know if it would be helpful, we could zoom in a bit. So if we...
sorry to interrupt. This is Elkstone Road. Where's the garden?
So the garden's immediately to the north of that, so between the canal and so we're looking at where the cursor is roughly.
Here.
So there's an entrance. If we zoom in, there are paths shown on this plan, although the layout's slightly different now because of the skating park in the middle. But there's a large entrance, what was called Point A, which is further over, which is the junction between, it's the corner between as Goulburn Road turns into Kensal Road. There's then access and egress to the canal at various points. There's the spiral staircase onto the bridge, which we've discussed. There's another way into the canal, which was shown on the Appendix A plan. There's these 2 exits onto Elkstone Road. So it's the Elkstone Road and that road bridge that are the concern from the point of view of crushing. I've already explained the point that in principle, if that was entry only and there were no exits at those gates, that would address that particular concern. The difficulty that the police have is it can't be done with soft barriers or rope or something like that because of the numbers involved, and because anybody determined to get in to get through would get through. And 2 SIA staff at most, and we've heard about the breaks, is just nowhere near enough to control the numbers at either of those points. So you'd need probably maybe 4 people at least, and you'd probably, if you wanted a line of people standing there, it would be more like 8, but 8 abreast. But you need significant numbers of people who are trained to manage conflict, manage crowds, to make sure that it was entry only and not exit. But also, of course, if it was entry, you've then got the issue of people potentially trying to queue to get in, and impeding the flow of people along Elkstone Road. And so again, that is a concern from a crushing point of view and congestion point of view. So those are our concerns around there. We don't see an easy way of controlling it as has been presented to us on the material that the committee's got today. It may have been possible to devise a scheme for that, but that's the concern on that. Then in terms of, we've heard about the stewards. There aren't enough stewards to double up as or try to be door entry supervisors as well. 10 people to manage this whole site, and we've heard that they're not going to expected or geared up or trained to do that. We've got all these other entrances then, which are not controlled at all. And so that, again, is a very significant concern. It isn't feasible that we, the police, cannot see a way whereby it is going to be feasible to count people in and out from all of those entrances and exits simultaneously in order to establish that there's no more than 500 people on the site. You can't easily do it, even if individual entrances had someone standing there with clickers, and we've heard that there aren't going to be the personnel to do that. You then have to liaise with each other all the time, constantly, to make sure that the entrances were closed off if you were about to exceed that limit until it was dispersed. And you'd have to keep a running total. And this suggestion that you can just take a photograph and get an app to tell you how many people, it's not feasible given the lie of the land and how dynamic the situation is. And of course, the stewards are going to be busy doing other things like talking to the patrons, to the people strolling through, and helping direct people and so on and so forth. So they can't be doing that all the time. So unfortunately, there is concern there. We're also concerned that the point was put about, well, first of all, on the music, our concern is that the music changes the dynamic of the event compared to previous years, that because it's there, it's going to attract people in who might otherwise not have come into the site. And whether that's bringing their own cans of booze or not, it's completely going to change the dynamic. And the stewards are not trained to deal with crowds and crowd dynamics. We're concerned about evacuation as well. If it's entry only at Elkston Road, then the main wide point for evacuation would be presumably the Goulburn Road exit, where there's going to be the waste. But there's also these canals. It's a narrow canal towpath at that point. There is a concern around crowds and evacuation in the event of an incident. If there are elderly and young children there, they are vulnerable. They may not be able to move at speed. And there are concerns around managing, if there was an incident in the site, how they would be safely evacuated. So I think in a nutshell, those are our concerns. And unfortunately, we don't see that there's sufficient security personnel and adequate barriers to control the entrances and exits. And we don't see it. And it may very well be that would be prohibitively expensive to do, but we don't see how, as things stand, this event can safely go ahead. And we do acknowledge that if the music isn't there, there won't be that control from licensing. But the committee will be aware that, first of all, the music is changing the nature of this event. And secondly, the licensing of policies that have to apply for this type of regulated entertainment event apply. And the police, we just can't be confident that this will be managed in an appropriate and safe way. And so for those reasons, we do ask the subcommittee to serve a counter notice. Again, if there had been more time between if this has been submitted earlier, it may have been that there could have been a safe way in which the event could have been run and managed, but we don't see how at the moment we can have confidence that this is going to pass off safely. So unless I can assist further, those are my submissions.
Thank you. And PC Calden is available as well, right, for questions? Good. I just would like to say a general one before I go to my committee. Can the PC give us her view on potential crushing at this site, entrance only, and general dispersal?
So from our point of view, obviously without repeating what Mr. Graham has actually said, it obviously is the area where the event is actually taking place. There is no control over how many people are actually going to be at the event at any one time. It can't be controlled, as Mr. Graham said, where the turning of the floats are, which will obviously create more of a crowd there, where they're holding back the crowds for the turn. It's not clear. Miss Delpert hasn't made it quite clear as to how this will be controlled with people coming in and out of the park. Obviously, we agree that if there was a certain entrance that could be used as the entrance only, that would potentially may help, but it's hard to say. When it goes over to Goulburn Road, obviously you've got the sound systems over there which will already have a high density of footfall there, and it's just very difficult to control that area with people coming in and out with, we can't suggest how many security or stewards you're going to need. Security is going to be the main point because they will be the ones that will deal with the conflict management. That's not going to be down to stewards. And it's very unclear from the map and how Ms. Dalpett is trying to explain as to how we're going to control a crowd. And that is our major concern, and it is public safety at the end of the day.
Okay, I will. And you can't recommend how many SIAs they need.
No.
So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Okay, so I will let my colleague ask questions, and then we'll come back to me. Councillor Wade.
All right. I mean, if we look at we recognise the application is to cover the 2 acres, but what are your concerns about the wilder part of which, because of the flow, it would be easy for people to get in and out of the park and go in there? What are your concerns around the wilder area, the quieter areas?
Well, I mean, we don't know how quiet they would or wouldn't be. So the issue really is it's about controlling entrance into this area where the entertainment is, and the whole of the area that's shown in the 10 is part of the 10, and the issue is if the entrance from all these other exits is just not being controlled. We've heard, and quite rightly, I mean, we haven't asked whether this is council-owned park, but one can't, and usually you'd have to get license from the council to close off with hard barriers areas of the park and stop members of the public from exercising their normal right to wander in through the park. But in any event, it's not being proposed to do that sort of exercise with a hard perimeter and then people, closely supervising the entry and then controlling the entry and exit at all these different points. So that's the concern, really. So we don't know how the crowd dynamics would build up or not in those areas, or what else would happen in those areas.
And what do you feel about are there any specific areas that you've discussed, but are there specific areas within the park that you're concerned about? That this is presumably through intel and previous interventions by the police. Are there specific areas?
Well, I'll ask PC Caldinez to comment on that. I mean, obviously, this particular type of event hasn't happened before in this space, but I'll ask PC Caldinez to answer that.
But I understand an event has been running for a number of years, so it may be your first experience, but presumably it won't be the police. Would you like to answer?
Yes, I will. So obviously we appreciate that Ms. Dalpett has had this event before. Our only concern is because of the introduction of the regulated entertainment in obviously the carnival, where there is music taking place. If there is music going to then be in that area, more people are going to be wanting to go over to that area, and it's quite clear that there's no control over the numbers there. That could be an issue, because I don't see on the 10 where you have 499 how it will be able to maintain 499 with all multiple entrances that you can actually get into the park. So, and then that just goes on to, if anything was to happen, how would that be controlled in that area? That is our major concern.
And what is your concern about about gangs and potential violence?
Well, this is always something that we always will be on high alert for. It's not something that obviously can be settled in that area, because it is an area that is known, but we can't anticipate that that's going to happen. But we have to be on high alert. And what provisions has Ms Delpit got in place for anything like that does happen? Obviously, police will be around, but not specifically in that particular area, because you know, as you can imagine, there's going to be police spread out everywhere.
Ms Delpit mentioned that it would have been nice to have had the police do a site visit. Was that ever arranged or raised or asked for?
No, that was not asked for, and obviously, as you can appreciate, the application did come in very late as well, and there is a short turnaround to actually deal with temporary event notices.
Going forward, it might be a good idea if that exercise took place.
Yes.
Now, I realise that policing for this event is going to be more specifically focused, and that much of it, the control is going to be on stewards. I'm talking about external to the site. So you mentioned that sorry, I'm looking at the map. The floats turn around, you said, at Portobello, or no, what's it?
Elkston Road.
Elkston Road.
So is it that where that kink is?
Yes, it's where the red is drawn on this plan we're looking at. They come down Elkstone Road from west to east, and then turn right onto Westbourne Park Road.
All right, so it's that kind of, and so that's, where is entrance A on this map?
Well, then it's on the corner where it says Golborne Road. So it's the upright of the L. So coming off of Elkstone, it says Golborne Road.
Yeah.
There's then it then does a very sharp right angle, and yes, there's another wide entrance with posts, which is very similar in layout to the ones on Elkstone Road in terms of big posts and then a big gap. So that I think is what's being described as point A. But you'll see that there are also entrances in from the canal at various.
No. I know the park quite well, but it was just getting clarification using this map as to where entrance A was.
Yeah, so it's above the D on where it says 1D.
Oh, yes, okay.
Can we have a cursor on that, please? Just for clarification.
Is it this part of the road?
Further to the right, where it goes a right angle, where it narrows towards the canal.
Here?
Yes, there on the corner.
Okay.
So it's that entrance there where it feeds onto two ones onto the canal.
Well, yes, but also there's a path that runs through the park behind the Trellick Tower.
I was just getting clarification that it's at that point.
It's right at the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me, I'm going to interject here. It seems to be next to Sir Valdez. Is that Sir Valdez? What is that?
That's a sound system.
Another sound system. So
yes,
there will be a lot of people gathering there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, you've been very helpful. The only thing I wanted to ask Mr. Graham, you didn't think that the having the app which can photograph from above is helpful, but I believe the police use something like that. I have seen.
Well,
it's a
what we're
gauge.
not.
It's a gauge, isn't it?
What we're not being told. I mean, maybe I'll be corrected. I don't understand it to be the position that there's some sort of overhead drone that's monitoring this. If it's people on the ground who are looking, holding their phone up in front of their face or something, or up in the air and taking a snapshot in one direction, and then getting an app to count it, and then turning around and taking several of those. There's an obvious issue, which is that not all the parts of the area are intervisible from any particular point, and there's going to be stalls and things in the way, even in the wider area where the main main trading activities are happening. So it isn't an effective way. And of course, if there's no control at the entrances, such as point A, such as along the canal, such as where the spiral and the other entry in is there in the other corner, if you do suddenly see that there's too many people, it's too late to do anything about it at that point. So those are the concerns, really.
Right. And can I ask you, if they dropped the music, they would be able to go forward, and do they need a street trading license or not to sell the food? Does anyone know that?
I think the answer is it would have to, if it's within 7 meters of a highway. I don't know, to be perfectly honest, whether or not the tow path is a highway. It may very well be a public right of way, but it's a matter for the local authority as to how they enforce the street trading regime. I think it's the London Local Authority Act of 2007. But there's also a question whether they have a license from whoever owns the park, but that would be a civil matter. It wouldn't be a matter for us whether they're entitled to run the stalls. Okay,
let's have licensing come in here. Ms. McCann, can you clarify that?
Thank you, Chair. It would be something within the council we'd need to speak to, probably the carnival events team and the street trading team as well. But it would be something quite separate from today's meeting.
Yes, of course. I was just wondering if there was a counter notice, what would happen? Okay, thank you. I think that's about it for us. Does our legal advisor have any further questions? Can you turn your camera on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Graham, I hear what you say, but in relation to the crowd management plan, do you agree the general thrust of it, and if there are any areas of concern, so any matters in dispute, if you could highlight that to the committee, because obviously what's being presented is a very detailed and comprehensive plan. So perhaps if you could, address your concerns to the committee in relation to those areas in dispute when it comes to the crowd management plan, please.
Yes, that would be very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chance.
Okay, well, so first of all, in respect of, I'm assuming you're referring to the new one that's headed by Safety Box on the top.
Indeed, yes.
Right. So on that, the first point is that there just aren't enough SIA or equivalently trained personnel to control the entry and exit points. And so if we see at page 5 of that document, there's a plan showing high-vis gilets for the stewards and dark icons for the SIAs. On that plan, it only shows 3 SIA people. We've now been told that there will be 4. But in any event, it's wholly inadequate to control the numbers of people at all those 7 or 8 entrances that we've pointed to. So that's the first point. Secondly, the number of other stewards who might be used as auxiliaries, again, it's not enough people and they can't be expected to be everywhere. We've also got the concern about Mrs. Dowpat wearing multiple hats, as it were, and having to coordinate too many different things for one person realistically to do. So that's one set of issues. Then we've got the details around point 7, for instance, where it says capacity control. That's again, it's part of the point we've discussed about not really being able to control the numbers, either by being able to count effectively or being able to control it if you've not got people there at all the entrance points with any physical means of stopping people coming one way or another. So that's the concern. And then at point 8, similarly on stewarding and staffing, it said it's an experienced staff team, but the reality is this type of event with music has not been run by this organisation before, and so that is a concern. It will attract, we think, a different type of crowd, or at least certainly different numbers of people doing different things if there's music and reggae and house than if it was just face painting for children. It's just a different type of event. So those are our concerns. I hopefully I've covered it, but that's it really. And it's similarly on point 11, section 11 on egress and ingress. We don't think it's safe to have, particularly on the Elkston Road end, for there to be egress at times which will be throughout the day when these floats are coming past and turning. And it needs to be controlled to prevent that from happening. If it's entry only at those points, you then need to be able to manage any queues that are building up or congestion building up from people trying to get in at that point. So that is also an issue. And then we have got an issue because it's on the route, or it may be on the route the other end at point A, but the police are less concerned about that because we don't have that particular problem with the right-hand turns there. But it all needs to be looked at, and it doesn't seem to have been looked at. It's possible in principle to have 500 people on this large site without any of them internally being overcrowded. But we haven't got a detailed analysis of that in terms of the areas that people will actually be on. So, I haven't in my submission sought to look at the internal dynamics within the site, but that in itself needs to be looked at, and it hasn't really been addressed in any detail in this document either.
Thank you very much. But even without regulated entertainment, you could still have those potential problems. It doesn't eradicate the issue altogether.
No, it doesn't eradicate it altogether. We're involved because this is a licensing issue. If it's not a licensing issue, it may cause concerns. But that's just the situation we're in.
Yeah, and can I also say that environmental health, who are the experts on public safety, have not objected to the application. I know you're objecting on public safety, etc., but they haven't specifically raised the representation in relation to the undermining of the public safety licensing objectives. So I think that's something the committee ought to bear in mind. But perhaps if the Ms. Dalbrook could come back to the questions that the police have put forward, or rather the representations that have been made by the police.
Yes, well, I think Ms. Dalpak wants to speak anyway and to ask some questions. So let's use this time to bring her in. Ms. Dalpak?
Hello there. Okay, I just wanted to address a couple of inaccuracies. We have actually applied for temporary event notices for music within Meanwhile Gardens over many years. Pre-COVID, we were doing it every single year. So that's why I started by saying to you that I've worked 26 years at Notting Hill Carnival at Meanwhile Gardens, and for a lot of those years we had music within Meanwhile Gardens with a 10 authorized. So just wanted to make that point clear. Also, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Also, just to say that, if there was, I mean, we don't feel there's a need to have personnel on every single exit entry points that lead onto the canal, not at all, because they're kind of like, they're not problematic. The 2 points that I think you're really concerned about are on Elkstone Road, that come in and out of the gardens at 2 locations, which I have marked as B and C on my map. Otherwise, those other points are just, you know, they're just not as crowded. There's a lovely flow that goes through the gardens. Some people go onto the canal, some people walk through the gardens, enjoy the nature, then come out onto Goulburn Road or Kensal Road, you know, at that junction. So they're not what we've ever considered as part of our event plan, because there's not much happening there. There's nothing happening there. There's nothing to hold people there. Do you see? Did you want to ask some further questions? I mean, I'm not sure about entry or exit only at B and C. I'm not sure if that might make the situation worse during the peak hours. But you know, if we needed to have more, if you felt it was necessary to have more SII trained personnel on those points, we could look at that.
Would you be able to do it before Sunday to get more people in?
So we actually have 3 companies that are really keen to work with us. So I'm going to say yes, because, you know, as it stands, our quotes are for 4 personnel, but I don't see why they couldn't provide, you know, increase those numbers. They seem to, that was just yesterday we obtained 3 quotes. It's very expensive, by the way.
We know that.
Yeah.
I think we are very worried about crushing.
Of course.
And stampeding. That's the problem, of course.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we've never had a stampede of people wanting to get into the gardens because of what we're doing. There's just such a nice flow about the event. Mm-hmm. But I do understand that you do have some, you know, peak times, and you have that busy junction. Completely understand that. And that's why we've looked at the security measure. And also just to say that quite a few of our stewards have worked with us over many years. So they live locally. You know, they know the area, they're able to help people move around, you know, with confidence, because they live locally. They know this, they know the streets.
And I think the police were saying that the music, of course, attracts a whole different demographic, doesn't it?
Well, it can do, but the people that are mostly in the gardens, they're not they don't tend to be the type that are very interested in sort of, you know, causing any problems, to be honest. They're mostly a very chilled out crowd, families, older people, enjoy a little bit of background music, have some food, you know, maybe get their child's face painted, enjoy the green space. It's actually a real respite from the crowded area, you know, the crowded streets.
Thank you for that. Do you have any questions for the police? Would you like
Why?
to? Yeah.
No, I mean, not really questions, just to say that there are a lot of police on Elkstone Road, patrolling the towpath around Meanwhile Gardens. Within Meanwhile Gardens, there's a big presence of police all around us. So, I mean, that is a reassurance to us, and also to the people that are within Meanwhile Gardens. You know, we often offer our play hut are stewarding based to the police if they need the toilet or need a break themselves. So, we try to work in conjunction with the police.
Okay, would you like to comment on that, PC Caldinez or Mr. Graham? Since it is question time, so.
Well, I'll hand over to PC Caldinez in a second. I just in terms of this point, we obviously hope that no serious event transpires. The difficulty is that we and you, the committee, need to be satisfied that this will promote the licensing objectives and not undermine them. And our concern, as I've explained, is we don't think the control is there. And the main issue, as has been highlighted, is this issue around Elkston Road access and egress, and not adding to the safety concerns and congestion concerns along that route. But I think I'm at risk of repeating myself otherwise. That is the main issue here. And the control of numbers and other exits and entrances is related to that, because you can't control the numbers on the site unless you've got control of all the different entry points. I'll hand over to PC Caldinez, see if she's got anything she'd like to add.
I think you've literally just answered everything that I was going to say anyway. There's nothing more really to add on that.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I would like to see, do the licensing officers have anything to add?
Nothing from me, thank you, Chair.
Okay, I do have a query for you, which may help with the discussion, which is, what's procedural, but if at this junction, if we were to allow the event to have the music, what we would like to see potentially more SIAs, how would we stipulate it here and get Chandrika to agree to that? Can that be done, or is procedurally it's not acceptable to do it at this stage?
I think that question might be better suited to your legal advice to Mr. Chance, but obviously we wouldn't be able to attach any conditions to this 10,
right.
So it would be either to authorise it or to not authorise it, but Mr. Chance might have some more.
Mr. Chance, can you turn on your camera and comment, please?
Exactly, you can't attach a condition, any conditions with a attendance that doesn't have a premises licence, but I don't know if the police are reassured with the assurance Ms. Delbert has given in relation to the upping of SIA. I don't know if that would alleviate the police concerns, particularly around Elkston Road, access and egress.
We don't think that one extra SIA person is going to cut the mustard, unfortunately. We're also somewhat concerned that quotes for this SIA cover has only been obtained the other day. I mean, these issues needed to have been properly analysed and stress tested sufficiently far ahead, so that there wasn't any concern, 2 days before the event. And that's the concern. I think there is power in principle for a relevant person who's objected to a 10 to agree a modification of the 10, because there isn't a power to do conditions. But as I say, at the moment, we're not in a position that we can agree anything. There isn't a clear plan in place which would ensure that the entry and egress is properly controlled. So we're not, I'm afraid, in the position to do that. And it's unfortunate that the committee's having to consider this on the Friday before the Carnival weekend.
But even, Madam Chair, can I just ask, even with the assurance given with an uptake of SIA, that wouldn't alleviate the police concerns at all? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if there's one extra person on the Elkston Road, so we're up to 4 or 5, that's still not enough physically to to physically control the access at those points. They're very wide access points. If the proposal originally was I think string and plastic type barriers, and it's just not going to be adequate if there are people who are determined to get in or out. It may assist slightly, somewhat, but you've still got the problem of controlling the numbers on the site. And 1 or 2 extra people is not going to be adequate to address that, because all these other entrances and exits are just simply not marked, as it were. And of course, if you needed to take one SIA off the other entrance, or away from the marquee to reinforce one of them where there's a problem, there's then fewer on the other entrances and exits. So there is a potential problem. We obviously hope that doesn't arise, but we're not in the business of hope. We've got to have a robust plan here if we're managing the risk.
What about 8 SIAs? I don't know if that's possible, but if they doubled it considering all the entrances, what do you
I don't know if PC Cowdners has got a view on that. Again, and there are 8 entrances, so I think it's going to, or 7 entrances. It's going to be difficult to do.
I think it's very difficult from the police's point of view to obviously decide how many SIA will be sufficient. Obviously, that's down to Ms. Dalpat if she believes that she now thinks that she may need more. So at this point, I can't advise how many she would need. It's down to obviously public safety and how many she feels that she will need for the event.
Ms. Dalpak, would you like to comment on that?
Well, just thinking about previous years and how it's been. I mean, obviously, we've never had any security on those entry exit points, and it's been absolutely fine. When the procession is going along Elkstone Road, the majority of the people are really following a float, and they want to stay with that float. You know, I understand that some of them pay money to be in that float, so it is dense, but the aim of the float and all the majority of the people is to get to the judging point on the Great Western Road. So the float and the carnival stewards are really guiding the crowd to get to that judging point. You know, that's their aim. So the people that come in and out of the gardens, you know, it's not really the crowds from the procession, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Mr. Chance, any further questions? Would you like to add anything?
No, I think everything's been covered, Madam Chair.
Okay, and do our governance officers have anything to add?
Nothing further from us at this stage, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have all the information we need, and we will retire to make our decision in private session. It's 11 o'clock. I think we'll need more than 10 minutes. So I would say, Mr. Chance, what do you think? Do we need half an hour or 20 minutes or what?
I think 30 minutes would be sufficient. Yeah, 30 minutes.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we will reconvene at 11:30. I will see everyone in my committee in the next room, and we'll be back here at 11:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
considered objection from the police to the temporary event notice, which has been given by Ms. Chandrika Dalpat, the premises user, for the provision of regulated entertainment at the above premises on Sunday, 24 August from 12 to 7 and Monday, 25 August from 12 to 7 for a maximum number of 499 people at any one time. The committee has considered the committee papers and the submissions made by the parties, both orally and in writing. In reaching its decision, the committee has had regard to the relevant legislation, the Secretary of State's guidance, and the authority's statement of licensing policy. In summary, the committee decided, after taking into account all the individual circumstances of the case for the licensable activities requested in the temporary event notice, has not been approved. The committee has decided to issue a counter notice under Section 105 of the Licensing Act for the event. We have taken into consideration and our reasoning is the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety objectives. The committee decided that allowing the temporary event notice would in this instant undermine the prevention of crime and disorder, safety licensing objectives, and it determined to issue a counter notice, as I mentioned, under Section 105. If the premises user would like to appeal against this decision, such appeal would be made to the magistrate's court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision, but at any event no later than 5 working days. I would like to add here that it was a problem because we would recommend for next year, if you apply for music, and when you need a 10, we would like you to apply earlier after having liaised significantly with the police, licensing, and Notting Hill Carnival, because you've changed the nature of the event. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I thank the applicant. I thank the objectors. I thank our committee, and I thank our legal advisor and our governance people. Please enjoy and have a safe carnival.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.